hCG Chica, welcome back. We're on episode 23 now of the hCG Diet Interviews. I have Kimberly with me today. She has a great story, and just a couple quick things about her. She's gone from a size 26 to a size 12. And one thing she mentioned to me was that, you know how we all track our inch loss and stuff, just from, right above her belly button alone, she lost 20 inches through her weight loss journey. And I actually brought this little tape measure. So just to show you guys how much that is, obviously if it was on her, it would be in a curve, but 20 inches worth. I don't know if you can see that. See, I mean, that's just a lot of inches and it would be on a person, but anyway, so I just thought that's amazing. So thanks for being with me today, Kimberly.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's awesome. So you are from Texas, right?
Yes, born and raised.
That's awesome.
We've lived in every major town or city in Texas.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and just give us a little bit of basic statistics about your weight loss journey to start with.
Okay, well, just for right now, I am 5'9", and like I said, that's barefoot. And I don't know what I weigh because I threw my scale away a couple of years ago. But I did, 30 minutes prior to this call, I measured my waist.
Oh, okay.
And it's 32 inches
Cool.
at the smallest.
Cool.
And I think that the smallest I ever was as a juvenile was 30 inches.
Oh, wow.
Always been that robust athletic build.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, you're 5'9", so you were much taller than me, so it looks like the same, like with my waist being slightly smaller but being shorter, we would look like the same smallness technically. So that's amazing. So I'm curious, since you mentioned it with the scale thing, what made you decide to get rid of your scale? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Okay, well, I work in healthcare and we had the scale at work. And I felt like, this was my personal opinion, but I felt like there wasn't an accurate scale at home. And then there's the psychological behind it. I deserve to know that I'm doing the eating habits to maintain my weight, as opposed to that down and high and low of, oh no, I gained a pound or I lost 2 pounds. I am really strict with my clothes size. There has to be something that makes you accountable.
Some type of gauge, right?
I do have a full length mirror, and I check myself every day, very strictly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I do, and especially for the ladies, our bras are a really good indicator. And then, of course, my waist size on my clothes. So even though I threw away the scale to give myself permission to do that 1 or 2 pounds of water gain that women just have throughout a month, there is still accountability.
That's cool. So how long has it been then that you haven't been using the scale?
Easter coming, so Easter 2015 will be 3 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So with your whole hCG weight loss journey then, you did not use a scale, is that right? Or
the first year, because this Easter 2015 will be 4 years.
Okay, gotcha.
Since I lost over 100 pounds.
Okay, gotcha.
And the first 8 months, yes, I used a scale. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was too exhilarating, coming from almost being 300 pounds and losing anywhere from 30 to 25 per protocol. Gotcha. And coming down. So yes, I did reward myself the first 8 months with this scale.
Awesome. That's amazing. And because that's really when the bulk of it comes off faster anyway, right? So
absolutely.
And it makes more sense, like you said, as time goes on. And it's not for everyone, but I'm actually writing an article about that right now, about whether or not to use the scale in your weight loss journey. And I'm finding that it's very individual, and that for some it is the right choice to not use it. I got a lot of feedback from people who have stopped using it at various times and how it was very liberating for them. But like you said, having another gauge, is important. But so yeah, I think that's very interesting. But it's true that as you get leaner, it's a less rewarding gauge, the scale, because your weight loss just is slower, and sometimes it ends up being more frustrating than helpful, So it was probably smart on your part. So just to clarify, you lost like all your weight with hCG, like over 100 pounds. Is that what you're saying?
All but the last 20. And that's simply because I was unable to obtain it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks to your website, I just actually I'm on the last week of P3 because thanks to your website, I just finished a round.
Oh, good, good. That's awesome. That's fantastic. So
And so I'm just so blessed that you have this website.
oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm just so I love that through the blog I've been able to meet so many different people who've done this protocol, because it's so fun to hear just everyday people and their story, that from beginning to end. I just think we all have something to share, and sometimes people don't realize it. Sometimes I'll email people saying, "Hey, let me know if you've lost weight. I'd like to interview people," and I'll hardly get any emails back. But then later, someone will be like, "Oh yeah, I did lose 90 pounds with hCG." It's like, well, that's a big deal. Like, why didn't you email me?
I
And
mean,
like,
that's a whole person.
I know, I'm like, that's a huge deal, and they're like, "Oh really? Like, I don't know. Like, people need
Yeah.
to hear about this." So that's too funny. So you said you actually original starting weight was around 300 pounds,
Yes,
and then you don't know where you're at today. Is that right?
that is correct. That
Right.
is no more inches.
You know that you have a waist size of 32 at your smallest, and you're a size 12 and you're 5'9", so that's a beautiful shape.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind standing up if you want to see
Yeah. Oh,
it.
sure. Yeah. Why don't you stand up for us then? We'll have the before and after photo as well at the start of the video. So
Here, that you can see, like,
yes, yes, yes. So cool.
and like, here's what's the funny thing is, I'll take off my shoe to show that I really am 5'9". Look at the size of this shoe, and look, it is exactly my waist.
Oh wow, that's too funny. I haven't ever tried that. I'll have to see what my shoe looks like.
Yeah, I teased my husband. I said, "Your shoe size is bigger than my waist."
That's too funny. Well, why don't we talk a little, since you stood up for us, we were just talking about shape before we started recording, and I'd love to actually chat about that because it's a big emotional thing. Like we were talking about how, in the modeling industry and mostly what we see in advertisements is a certain shape of woman, but we don't all have that shape. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your struggle with that and how you've learned to look at things?
Well, I love my mother, but unfortunately, she was one of those naturally skinny women.
Yeah.
And I remember I was the firstborn, and I was even the firstborn grandchild. And I remember even at age 5 thinking, we look so different. And she just always, I mean, I think my mom was like around a size 0 and she was 5'9" as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, she
Super
was
tiny.
tiny, tiny. And I just never was that way. And so I did grow up always wondering when was that going to happen for me.
I see. Because that's what you saw as normal because it was your mom.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And even extended family, all of her sisters were very thin. But my grandmother, now my grandmother's Dutch, and we are twins.
Oh, wow. That's so neat.
And so I did have a role model. She was a very strong woman. She
Yeah.
lived Texas country, had her own garden, and she was just very robust, like just really big arms and tiny
Yeah.
waist, and but you're right. In the industry, there just isn't a good reputation, except for Dove. Now the company Dove is doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on a personal note, if you go to Pinterest, you can look at the average size 12, and they'll have different women of heights, and that is liberating. I have it favorited on my board.
Cool. That's awesome. So you're more curvier than what we see a lot. Like you said, hourglass shape, right? So how did you learn later on to kind of accept that about your body?
My husband,
Yeah.
yes, my husband. This August we celebrated 26 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
And he is the one who I was able to see myself through his eyes
Oh.
and realize that this is the body I have to give hugs. This
Yeah.
is the body I have to give smiles, and I need to embrace this body.
Yeah.
Not only that, regardless of your body shape, everyone deserves a light, flexible body to enjoy life in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over how much I can just flex my knees
Mm.
to fold up and
Yeah.
read a book. And that was probably the most liberating thing for me was the
Wow,
flexibility I received in my waist and behind my knees.
that's amazing.
And that made me really start reflecting on my body. Look what my body can do. And
Right.
that was liberating.
That's
So
great.
the two things to recap was feeling light and flexible in my body and seeing myself through the eyes of my husband.
That's awesome. And I like how you said just that seeing what your body can do makes you embrace it more. Because I had to do the same thing. I also don't have that type of body. Um, I have very like kind of stockier legs genetically, and they're very short too. So, so I just don't look good in certain types of outfits. um, or I would have thought that, you know, but when I went to CrossFit, there's actually a lot of women with my build there because they're all working out and kind of building muscles, so they're a little stockier, and it really changed my perception of what I see as beautiful or normal. It really did. Before that, I always had a really hard time accepting my body, even when I was quite thin. I still saw like things as imperfections that were just really kind of the shape of my body. But in later years, now that I've, you know, gone to CrossFit and seen other women and they're strong, and I know what my body can do too when I go there. Like, I know what my legs can do, you know, the shape they have. They're lifting certain amounts of weights and what they're doing. And that makes me feel like very comfortable in my body and proud of it. So I can walk around in shorts and not feel weird anymore, you know. Um, so I like that you said that, like learning what your body can do helps you to, it's not just about how maybe it looks from a distance in a certain style of clothing, you know, but there's other factors too. So I like that.
I wish I could say that confidence played the key, but I have the confidence from embracing my body. The confidence didn't make me embrace my body.
Interesting.
So I want to say confidence does play a role when I walk. I own it.
Yeah,
But it wouldn't have came the other way. I don't own it because I have a great body. I own it because my confidence makes me feel like I have a great body.
that's cool. Tell me a little bit about a little bit of the background history before you found the hCG protocol. Where were you at in life?
Well, I was at almost 300 pounds and I had recently recovered from a life threatening illness. I had a tumor on my pancreas and it was the size of a women's softball, not
Wow.
a men's, but a women's softball.
Wow.
And it, of course, messed with my digestion. I gained a lot of weight with that. It wasn't an option. It was the only foods I could eat. And I later did try the Atkins diet. My husband was very successful with it. He was just that normal 30, 40 pounds overweight that you get as you get older.
Yeah.
And I only lost 30 pounds and I just stalled and stalled. And I went to my doctor and he said, any diet will make you lose 30 pounds. And he said, I don't know why you're having issues.
Hmm.
So I didn't know what to do. And I came across Dr. Simeon's book and I bought it and read it. And I said, I have to try this. Because that's what I felt like all along. I felt like I did everything right. There's got to be something wrong with my metabolism.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I had to order it secretly from India.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And when I ordered it, I ordered a whole bunch because I was like,
Yeah, you never know, it might not be available.
like it.
Right.
And that changed my life. And matter of fact, not to be over exaggerative, but it probably saved my life. Before hCG, I was on injectable insulin.
Okay.
I was on the diabetic pill metformin.
Wow.
I was on high blood pressure medication.
Wow.
And I was heading toward a cholesterol pill as well.
Wow.
Today, I am zero medications.
That is awesome. That's amazing.
Matter of fact, my H1C is a 28-day look back of your sugars, and my doctor was worried that mine was going to get too low.
Oh, wow.
Which for a previous diabetic, because you never hear of anybody going, I once was diabetic.
Right, right. Yeah. No, it's so true.
That's absolutely unheard of.
Yeah.
So I just can't gloat enough about hCG, and that's why I said you're an angel to have this website.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy it. That is awesome. You also had mentioned that you for a while were considering like bariatric surgery, some type of, what about that?
Yes. So when the Atkins stopped for me, I honestly didn't know what else to do. So being in the healthcare business and always in the hospital, my particular town at that time did have a entire floor to bariatric surgery, and I had taken care of them after surgery.
Yeah.
And coming from almost 300 pounds, how do you tell someone who just had bariatric surgery, that you're good for you, good for you? And the whole time I'm thinking in the back of your head, I really need to do this myself.
Oh.
So I went to the doctor, and he did look at my metabolism, and he said no.
Wow.
He actually rejected me. And that's when I found out that 175 for my bone density and my height was a really good. So I did get something out of that visit, but I was heartbroken that he refused me.
So, why? So after looking at your metabolism, why did he say the surgery wouldn't be a good thing? Like, to clarify for everybody.
Okay. When you're a diabetic, you can't have a lot of carbs, of course, and that's why the Atkins diet is so beautiful. It doesn't make an insulin response.
Yeah.
When you get bariatric surgery, and I was looking at the extreme one because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it really serious.
Right.
You can't eat a lot of protein because you need that longer time in your stomach to digest protein.
Oh.
And this is more about a little pocket getting full fast and then going through your body.
Wow.
And he said I would start to this because the foods I would have to eat to keep my blood sugar low does not connect with the procedure.
I see. Interesting.
So my diet was a conflict with the way my body was going to handle the procedure.
I see. Very interesting. Huh. So it's good, and it's good in the end because you might have ended up having the surgery and then found out about hCG later, and instead you get to have all of your body parts and eat more.
Absolutely. Then there's all the benefits of hCG. Every time I do it, everyone goes, "You just look a little younger."
Aww.
And because it does tone up your skin a little bit.
Yeah. A little
And my
pregnancy
skin is
glow.
softer after I do a round of hCG.
Very interesting. So your first round then, when you found it, that was a few years ago then? Like 3 or 4 years ago?
4 years is when I was successful with it. It took me a while to be successful.
Gotcha.
And my very first round was almost 6 years ago.
Gotcha. I'd love actually to hear, because we have all kinds of stuff about like how you've been successful with phase 2, so we'll talk about that. But I'd actually love to hear, you mentioned having some struggles though with a round or two. I'd love to hear about that. Like, what did you struggle with early on that made it not work as well for you at first?
Okay, when I did my first round, I was an adult, and so we had a lifetime of guilt, food issues. The hCG, once I really embraced it and realized it was going to work, it almost scared me. And then I was actually able to let that wall down that I had built up of being okay overweight or being okay presenting myself. Yeah. And then I also had to deal with, now I'm going to be seen differently. And how do I feel about that? How do I feel about looking attractive? Yeah. So I had to go through a lot of emotional. It was very much. I think I almost cried for 21 days. Oh. But ironically, I would cry and then I would jump on the scale and do a happy dance. Yeah. So there was this back and forth of triumph versus killing old beliefs. Yeah. And it was very emotional, and it wasn't. I hope everybody gets to feel healthy in their body. I hope they don't have to do it as emotionally as I did.
But it's good. It's good for people to know that that's oftentimes is a part of this, of getting through it successfully, So it's good to hear your feedback on that.
I knew when it was successful that this was my ticket. This was my golden ticket to weight loss. I went and got huge garbage bags, cleaned out my kitchen, everything and anything. And fortunately, it's just me and my husband, and he struggles with his weight too. So he's always done hCG with me as well. Yeah. And we were able to just embrace it. And even now I'm on P3. Moving forward, I don't hardly plan on I just eat more, but I don't get diverse. Gotcha. I can't afford to. I don't have a scale.
Right, yeah, I know, being extra cautious, huh? But that seems like that works then for you.
Yes, that's been my success.
That's cool. That's really good. That's neat that you said your husband did hCG with you too. I'm just curious, it's kind of a side point, but I don't get to talk to men too often who do the diet. So did he do injections with you as well?
Yes, he's the same medical as I am, and I read this sublingual, and it just wasn't for me.
Right.
It just seemed like too much work. I'll just be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
And being in the medical field, needles don't scare me.
She's a nurse, by the way, so in case
Well,
people
I
are
didn't know if you
wondering.
wanted to say it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're both nurses, and so the injection just felt really natural. I have to admit, now, when I first read about it, and I got thinking, even as a medical person, I'm going to inject myself with something. It did scare me. I won't fudge that at all. I'm not going to soften the blow. It
Yeah, right.
did scare me.
Yeah.
I had to really read and watch a lot of YouTube videos because this was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
To get comfortable with prescribing something that I'm going to inject into my body.
Right, yeah.
There
And
was that
it's
fear.
kind of funny, like when you think about it, because I totally get that too. Like, oh, I had to watch a bunch of videos too, but it is funny because, like you said, you were considering like the bariatric surgery, but it's like somehow that wasn't as scary, like someone coming in and like taking out parts of your body. you know, it's funny the perception that like the culture in America or puts out there that we get affected by, where like I don't hear people like talking against weight loss surgery very often online, but I see people talking against the hCG protocol all the time, And it's just funny because it's like, well, how come this doesn't seem as extreme to you? Because it is. It's actually more extreme. It's funny.
And I don't know if people realize the bariatric surgery comes with a lot of side effects.
Yeah, and go ahead, go ahead.
As I said, it does limit your lifespan. That sounds ironic, but you either can live a short amount of life, really big,
Yeah,
or you can live it a little bit longer and thinner. But because of the nutrients on digesting vitamins and protein,
yeah,
it does shorten your life. hCG extends life.
yeah,
And like you said, the bariatric, and it's all about our culture on trusting the doctor to do this intervention as opposed to, well, us being in control of our health.
right,
Taking responsibility.
right. Yeah, and actually, speaking of that, another interview that I did, I think she's going to be episode 20 or 21, but she's also a nurse and she also worked in the bariatric field. And we discussed that in more detail about the side effects because she also was considering that surgery for a while before she found hCG. But yeah, we talked about that, the nutrient deficiency and that you're doing something that's like permanent that you can't undo, so it's a serious decision. But well, why don't we move on and talk a little bit about phase two, the losing weight part of the diet, because you have a lot of different little things that you have discovered along your journey that were helpful to you or that you noticed. So tell us about some of those.
The one thing I want to brag on is the steam tray. And I have it here in front of me.
Oh, great, great.
So this is the steam tray.
Okay.
So this is the steam release. And so when it's cooking, you just slide it closed. It's 3 parts.
Okay.
So it has a tray. You can see how thin it is.
Yeah.
And then it has the bottom.
Cool.
You just put a little bit of water in the bottom. And you put the tray, and then you put your raw meat here.
Okay, cool.
And it seals, and you microwave it. I can do an entire pound of chicken breast in under 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
And what I like to do is I get ground turkey that's 99% and then 1% fat, and it comes in those plastic logs.
Yeah.
Lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is it's 1 pound.
Gotcha.
And 100 grams is approximately 100 calories.
Yeah.
And there's 400 grams in that pound.
Gotcha.
So I just estimate like visual and cut it because it's already like in that form.
Right.
And then I can just make meatballs, and all 4 meatballs will fit on there, and I can steam those in around 5 minutes.
Cool.
So 400 calories of 99% lean.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to cook. And that's what we ate most of the time on the hCG P2 on the injection days.
That is amazing. And you can get that like at Walmart or Target or something, right?
Target. I checked Walmart doesn't have it.
Okay,
Target right now is the only one who has it.
Okay, cool. So for anyone who wants to try that, because it is true, a lot of people like they just don't have time or the motivation to like spend a lot of time cooking, and so it's nice to have something that's quick, So, and do you do vegetables in there too? Oh, I forgot. No, we'll talk about that in a sec. You didn't do the vegetables. Okay. So yeah, so you can do meat in there, but you can do vegetables too, right?
Yeah, it's just a water steamer.
Yeah, a little steamer and stick in the
And,
microwave. Awesome.
and the reason I mean, it's awesome because it doesn't add fat.
Right.
The food doesn't break apart. The meatball steaks, I know those are around 100
And it looks
calories.
like it keeps it moist because it's got the cover, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's one that has that valve, and that's really important when you pull it out of the microwave. Be really careful. I throw a towel over mine and pull it out,
Sure.
and then I slide that little butterfly open and just let it sit for a few minutes because it's steam, it's gas. It's going to seek its level, and it will burn you.
Right, interesting. Now, so you did mention this to me that when you did your phase twos, you pretty much just eat protein. Is that right? You don't do fruit, you don't do anything else, no vegetables.
Mm-mm.
So tell me a little about that, like why you chose that, how you feel it worked out for you.
Well, it didn't happen right away.
Okay.
My first protocol, of course, I tried to follow Dr. Simeon's everything except for the was it Melba
Melba
toast?
thing, yeah.
I didn't eat that anyway because
Yeah,
I was already coming from the Atkins diet. So,
right.
and I knew my body, I knew my response to carbohydrates.
Sure.
So, I tried the broccoli, I tried the cauliflower, and I was a wimp. It just was not the same without gobs and gobs of butter.
Yeah.
So, and I personally tried to stay under 500 calories because I was just eating meat. You figure
Yeah.
when he says 500 calories, he's incorporating everything.
Yeah, and he only said no more than, so technically there are times even when you are eating the vegetable and the fruit that you're still under 500. That's okay. He just said make sure you eat the protein. Yeah.
And I'm glad you hit on that point. That's exactly beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
That, and that's why I want to stress to a lot of people that you can eat up to 500 calories, but you don't have to.
Right.
On an average day, probably 4 out of 7 days, my average was 350 calories.
Yeah.
But it was really high nutrition,
Right.
dense protein.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you were just eating a Quest bar. You were having like real good quality meat. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll vouch for that too. Just a little more on that. I actually have a whole video, an article on can you eat less than 500 calories on the diet, and I kind of go into a lot of detail. So I'll link to that in the show notes. Show notes. But just a little further, I did the same thing. My final round, especially when I was kind of tracking a little more, I just really wasn't hungry on the dose of my injection that I was on, which for me at that time was 125 IUs. And so yeah, a lot of days I would only eat about 350 calories. Some days I did feel hungrier because by this point I'm getting fairly lean. So I did eat more 500. On a few days I actually needed more like 600 calories, but there was many days where as long as you eat the protein, he said you can eliminate anything else you're not hungry for. So that's interesting. Cool. So, and then of course, turkey wasn't on the original protocol, but like back then they didn't have 99% fat-free turkey, you know. And it's totally up to you guys out there how you do it. What I like to do is always tell people like, here's the original protocol, and here are some of the changes that myself and others have done that we feel were successful. And that way you guys have that personal choice. So the turkey isn't on the original protocol, but she's used it consistently. And what I like to see is that people have like success over time with something, which kind of is what you have, Kimberly. So it's great that you're mentioning that for people to have that choice.
The other thing I want to show is the fish. Now I realize tuna is not on the protocol.
Right, right.
But we did find one. It's TONGOL. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not.
Tongle. It's water packed, right?
Yes.
Water
And
packed.
this has been our travel backup.
Gotcha.
My husband, when he goes to work, this is what he would take. It's 2 servings of 60 calories
Cool.
and 0 fat.
Cool. That's
So
great.
he would eat 2 of these.
Yeah, just
That's 120 calories.
yeah.
And he's a mustard monster. That's what
Ooh.
And then the other thing we did was the pink salmon.
Oh.
This one is special. It's chicken of the sea, pink salmon, skinless and boneless.
Oh, show that to us. Yeah, actually, that's interesting.
And that's 120 calories as well. Let's see.
And what's the fat content on that?
That's something I want to hit on.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
noticed, especially being from the medical field, because I have to monitor nutrition so much for my clients.
Yeah.
So I started picking up on patterns in Dr. Simeon's suggestions of his book.
Yeah.
Based on the egg and the meat choices.
Right.
And that, to answer your question, that has 4 grams
Okay,
of
cool.
OCAN.
Yeah, that's
And
small.
I noticed that both of us, me and my husband both, that if we would stay under 4 to 6 grams of fat, and that's including your 1 egg,
yeah,
that we still saw major success on the scale. Not just maintain, but success.
Right, that's good. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it is true, like if you eat the beef, the extra lean beef that is on protocol, there is a small amount of fat. It's just that you're like trying to avoid as much as possible. But yeah, so it sounds like it's probably about the same actually as the beef in that case. But that probably would be different than just like getting a fillet of salmon and eating it. Like that probably would have more fat, right? Don't you think?
Right, because this is fat and water don't mix, so this has been boiled and all the fat is bubbled up for the most part.
Yeah.
And of course, if you get a fillet of salmon, you're going to get the skin.
Yeah.
A yummy butter fat on it.
Right, right. So I'm just mentioning it in case anyone says like, oh, I'm gonna try salmon now. Like maybe, that probably would still have too much fat, but with the canned when she's mentioning that skinless and boiled or whatever, that sounds like an interesting experiment.
And that was our only options we had for lunch, away from home.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me a little bit now about the whole sleep thing? Actually, I'm writing a post on this as well because there's multiple causes for having trouble sleeping on hCG, but you'd know about one of them. What's one of them?
Well, the active ketosis, it does stimulate your brain. The brain actually runs on ketones.
Yeah.
But the main thing is it's not the ketosis, but the fact that your body knows that you're on a low calorie and it's metabolizing fat.
Yeah.
It thinks you need to find more food, so it's keeping you awake. And it does mess with serotonin switching to melatonin.
Interesting.
So I do take a supplement. And this is the one I suggest from my doctor.
Okay. 5 milligrams of melatonin.
With B6. And he agrees not all melatonin is made the same. So if you see something that's like $2 at Walmart,
it's probably not.
You pay for it.
Yeah. What brand was that one again?
It's Mason Natural.
Mason Natural. And you can get that, I think you had mentioned at swansonvitamins.com?
Yes, I'm a 4th generation. We're a 4th generation of vitamin takers. My mother and my grandmother both were Reader's Digest. And then the other thing I wanted to, since we're on the subject of supplements, the potassium that I recommend is the gluconate, which is the most available for the body.
Potassium gluconate. Okay.
And it's because if you use mustard like we do, mustard's my best friend.
Yeah.
The vinegar is acidic that's in mustard, and that does make the kidneys shed the positive. The potassium is K plus, which is a positive ion.
Okay.
And it does make you spill potassium quicker, and so not only are you probably washing your fluids, you're taking a lot of intake, washing out your vitamins through so much water.
Right.
And the vinegar is making you spill more potassium. So I have to take a potassium supplement to prevent leg cramps.
Interesting. And I'm glad you're mentioning that. Actually, I didn't know about this with the vinegar and the potassium connection. So, because people do complain of leg cramps on hCG. So you think usually it's probably due to like a potassium issue?
Well, it can be one of two things. It can be one that our body makes glucose through our liver.
Okay.
And supplies our muscles. So that's why Dr. Simeon doesn't recommend exercising while you're on the protocol, because you are on a limited. Your body can only make so much glucose. You only have one liver at a time.
Right.
And so it can be that they're if they're climbing a lot of stairs throughout their day, or if they're living in a high city like New York and they're having to walk, it could be simply that they are out of energy on their muscles.
Right.
The second part could be the vinegar, that they're eating a lot of mustard with potassium, and then the third part is the water. You're drinking a lot more water. You're hungry, or you're just
so you're like diluting all of the electrolytes and all that, right?
So there's 3 causes there alone that could cause leg cramp.
Right. That's interesting. So would you say with the The potassium. I'm saying that right? Sometimes I get potassium and the other one confused. Did you say potassium?
Yes.
Okay, good.
A
First,
plus.
I get potassium and another one. I think calcium. Sometimes I like interchange them. I wanted to make sure I wasn't saying the wrong word. So how much potassium would you say that like you would take personally while on the diet?
Okay. Of course, I'm not diagnosing
Yes,
or
just if it was you personally, what would you take?
um, because I already know that I spill potassium very easily. I take 3 of these a day, and I can take them all at once. And these are 99 milligrams.
Okay, cool.
And if
So 3 of
I'm
those.
having, and if I'm still depleted, I'll know before I go to bed. My legs will start bothering me around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I can take one, and an hour later, it'll be better, and I can go to bed.
That's good to know. Can they be taken any time of day? Like, should they be taken away from food or with food or?
That again, that's going to be personal choice because
Yeah.
some are tablet and some are caplet. Mine is a caplet with the vegetable lining.
Okay.
Like
the little veggie capsule.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That little gelatin thing.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
So that requires a lot of water to break down that gelatin.
Okay.
But the other ones also have a coating. So it's all going to be personal choice on what kind of pill you can swallow. Does it upset your stomach? Are you coming from, if this is your first protocol, there's a good chance you probably have your lining of your stomach is irritated from being food sensitive.
True.
So that one's really hard to answer because I don't know what protocol they're in or where they're at in their life.
Gotcha. But at least it's a good tip if someone's having leg cramps, that might be something to try that's fairly inexpensive to see if it helps. And actually, I like that you mentioned also the other cause of like the feeling of fatigue in your body on the protocol has to do with just not having as much glucose or energy running around in your body. Because sometimes it kind of can freak people out when, especially if they're a person who's like into working out or whatever, when they feel that weakness, it's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like something's wrong. But I try to encourage people and tell them like, I think it's important to remind people of that the way you're feeling on the diet like that is because of that, and that when you're off the diet, that feeling goes away.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's the scare, like, oh my goodness, is this how I am now? Like, now I'm just weak and I can't work out and I can't walk upstairs without, like, feeling like I'm gonna, like, faint? It's like, that's just because of the state your body's in. When you get off, that feeling of vigor and strength does return. So, and I can
it's temporary, and most of the time, I have learned that when I reach that point, I'm building muscle.
Interesting.
Like I said, I'm at the end of P3 of around right now.
Yeah.
And I almost have a 4-pack.
Awesome! Wow, you're beating me.
and it's just simply from, of course, nursing is a physically demanding job. People don't realize how much we lift in a day.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm responsible on my end of all the housework.
Yeah.
So I'm manually mopping and vacuuming, and I'm like, I'm building muscle.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and it means your body fat percent is just low enough now from losing so much fat that it allows your muscles to show. So that's awesome.
Okay, well, there was 2 spices that I enjoyed that made food, replace butter. One was dill weed because we do eat a lot of egg white, and I just buy the egg white in the carton so I don't have to waste egg or mess with the yolk. And it's just dill weed that you can find in the spice aisle.
Cool.
And then the other one, to avoid vinegar with the mustard, is ground mustard.
Awesome.
And both of those I love dill on the egg. When you're making the omelet, and sometimes I'll take one of those turkey burgers and chop it up, and that's basically the meat in my omelet.
Yeah.
And I will just sprinkle the dill weed all the way over it, and it has made such a difference.
That's great.
And then the treat I got is xylitol. Now, xylitol has a few calories, but I did not get an insulin response on P2.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm only 4 weeks away from actually having injection day.
Yeah.
So my favorite is the ice chips.
Candy with peppermint.
And here's a side note on xylitol. Xylitol is a sweet derivative, and there's 2 sources. One is from corn and one is from birchwood. And I prefer the birchwood, the hardwood xylitol, just because I do not get an insulin response from that. I can't say, because I don't have any scientific research on the other that's come from corn, on whether that's an insulin response or not. And then the other thing is chewing gum.
Cool. Peppermint. Awesome.
And both of these are on swansonvitamins.com.
Great, great. Yeah. Yeah, and I like that you said that you didn't get an insulin response from it because that's kind of like one of the little indicators if something is okay or not. And probably because it's just a small amount too, right, of xylitol.
Yes, I mean, I made myself not eating until after my last meal, and that was just to get me from like 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., somewhere in there. Cool. So that, and we're only talking like 2 or 3 little chips.
Right. Yeah, like if you were to eat the whole thing, probably you would get an insulin response, right? So keep it in balance, everybody.
And then if we're really hungry and we've had all of our nutrition for the day, we would take our blender and make a flavored slushy out of ice and water. We would use essential oil of orange and lemon, cool. And 3 drops of essential oil of orange and 16 ounces of your. And our blender has that cup that's attachable.
Yeah.
And that's what we would use instead of the big blender, and it made the perfect. It was just like a 7-Eleven slushie, except it was. But we did the stevia with ethanol that's in the packages.
Okay.
That's what we would sweeten it with. So it was water, ice, stevia, essential oil, and we would make a slushie.
And did you say you like blended up the ice cubes first or something, or?
No, we just put it all together.
Okay, cool.
Just one thing, to kind of give it a shape, because you know stevia doesn't do so well in cold.
Right, right.
And then just blast it and throw it in a cup. And then you have the act of eating it because it freezes everything.
Yeah.
And so you can't eat it very fast or you'll get a brain freeze.
Right, right.
So there's just that whole act of like if you're used to eating chips or popcorn when you watch TV in the evening, it gives you something to do with your hands. And it of course it's awesome water.
Yeah.
And then you get the sweetness from the oil, because 3 drops of orange oil is like I'm not even gonna count that in my calories.
Yeah, right. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree. A lot of people love doing the slushy things like that. It really does help. Like you said, you just want like a little something, and the volume that you get for what it is like 0 calories or 8 calories or whatever. It's just great. So cool.
Well, I'm gonna stand up. And I'm going to show you on my body.
Okay.
So there's my belly button right there.
Okay.
And the donut is the circle right here.
Sure.
And I noticed, you'll notice it too, when you're losing your weight, you'll be really flat right here.
Yes.
Really flat right here. But when you look down from your point of view at your body,
right,
it will be this 1 to 2 inch height.
Yeah.
This way.
It's like the little kangaroo pocket.
Yeah. And it's exactly around your belly button.
Yeah, I still have a little bit of that actually. Yeah.
And I call it a donut.
Yeah, no, that's very appropriate.
One reason I call it a donut is because I'm like, I ate too many donuts to get it. And then, of course, it looks like a donut. And the theory is we have 3 kinds of fat. We have hard fat, soft fat, visceral fat. And our visceral fat is that really important, kind of like spider webby, that keeps all of our internal organs where they're supposed to be from, and you know, like when we do jumping jacks.
Yeah, like keeps everything like, it's like the little, what are those little, when you get stuff in the mail, those little poppy things that keep stuff protected?
Yeah. That is awesome fat.
Yeah.
And then we have the fat underneath our skin, and that's our cushion fat. That's what keeps us from hurting our bones. And then the best way to describe it is I want to compare raw chicken to raw steak. Okay. And when you get a steak, do you see that white layer of fat on the edge?
Right. Yeah, like a thick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's going to be the layer that's underneath our skin, and that's that 30 pounds that you lose during when a woman is pregnant to give to her child. That's that 15 pounds you need to get through illness. That is a beautiful life preserve. That is our pantry for our body.
Gotcha.
Now let's look at a chicken breast. Have you ever seen that really dark yellow fat that looks like it's almost in a tube or like a globule on the edge of the
Mhm.
chicken? It'll have like its normal white ribbon fat on the very edge.
Right.
And then have you ever seen that really dark yellow? It'll be like a little tube, like maybe folded underneath it.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That is our fat that makes us fat.
Ah.
Okay. That fat gets the wrong signal and will not release it. That's why it looks so stuffed. It's yellow.
Yeah.
It looks like it's about to burst.
Yeah.
And I'm from Texas, so it looks like a tick. And so okay. So back to the hCG. So we lose that 30 pounds really fast. That reserve that's on our hips, a little bit of the donut.
Yeah.
Our body then, because now this is only special for the hCG, it makes that chemical message for that fat to release. So it enters our body. It has to enter the bloodstream, but the body doesn't really know what to do with it because it's inappropriate fat to begin with.
Right.
So it restocks that 30 pounds you just lost. So you will lose inches, but you won't lose weight because technically you didn't. You just remobilized it to a place where your body can utilize it.
Very interesting. I like that's a very interesting thought. Huh.
So that's why, and Dr. Seaman, he when he wrote this book, he was talking to other medical people,
Right.
not to your like normal everyday person.
Right.
And I think he would have said it differently today
Sure.
if you know if he knew that
Right.
this was going to be. But yeah, so our body, hence you're constantly burning that 30 pounds, which is ironic.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose weight on the scale, but all of a sudden your pants are going to feel tight. You're going to be thinking this ain't working.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may doubt yourself, but get on your scale. Like I said, the first 8 months I did have a scale.
Yeah.
So get on your scale, go make a slushie, relax.
Calm
Yes,
down.
and the cycle is 3 to 5 days.
Interesting.
So I will notice for 3 days, all of a sudden my waist looks bigger, my pants are tighter,
Yeah.
and then for 5 days it'll go back down.
Interesting.
And at first I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
and then it'll build back up.
Yeah.
And that's why all of a sudden you'll see you'll get smaller here. You'll get a little bit more room between your thighs, just the back of your knees, just those little places are all of those really globules of that yellow fat that you see on chicken.
That's so interesting. I kind of wonder too, like if that fat takes more effort to. It sounds like it takes more time in a sense or effort to get rid of
It does,
for your
and
body.
that's why you have to have patience.
Yeah.
Know that the protocol is going to work for you.
Yeah.
And you may have to do it 7 times over several years. I know for me, now that I'm approaching as lean as I'm going to get,
Yeah.
but I'm like you, I still have like the donut and I still have a little bit of extra thigh.
Yeah.
I want to lose another 10 to 15 pounds, and I know that I'm probably going to have to wait like 6 months and then do a protocol. And the leaner you get, the less results you get.
Right. Yeah. Just
the whole time you're getting to enjoy a leaner body as you go through the journey.
Yeah, and I think it's so I love what you're. I'm glad you talked about the whole other type of fat thing, and it does make a lot of sense. And I'm thinking about my fourth round. I only lost like 7 pounds that whole like 3 week round, which was like seemed like very little. But that was the round that my leg shape changed the most, and I lost fat like on my around my knees, the outside of my knees, that had kind of been stubborn. And like it was after that round that I liked my legs again. Like I was like, wow, my legs look pretty hot. you know? So it makes me think of that. Like maybe it was targeting that more. And so it was more effort, but the result was still good. It's just that the scale didn't appear to be as much lower as you would like, but actually the shape the way it changed my body physically was pretty drastic.
Yes, and that's why just to so hCG is different from any diet on the planet.
Yeah.
Every diet on the planet is going to make you lose those 30 pounds, and then hopefully you can tone up to lose a little bit more, maybe 50. I mean, if you're 500 pounds overweight, of course you're going to lose more than 30 on any diet.
Sure.
But the hCG, because of the pituitary gland, I have a healthier, youthful physique now than I did prior, simply simply because of what the hCG does on releasing that fat. So
Right.
not only are you going to lose inches and pounds, but you're going to lose it in a more aesthetic, beautiful body way.
That's very well put. I'm glad you said that, because that is usually the number one thing you'll notice. You know, if you're new to this protocol and you're still researching it, I do encourage you, go to YouTube, type in, you know, hCG diet before and after, and watch some of the videos or do an image search on Google, because that's the one thing you'll notice with people who kind of get to like what they would consider their goal. Their body, like she said, is aesthetically very balanced. Like whatever body shape they have, they look way more just, it's just so balanced and pleasing. I've talked about that before too. It's like, wow, it really does seem to make you lose weight in a different way. And so that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And I mean, I emailed you some before pictures so that if you want to put them in.
Yeah, yeah, I got them. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I want
Could
some
you?
after pictures too, though.
Well, so you'll put in my before picture, and the thing I want to say about my before picture is you can see that when we're talking about losing it in a pretty way, you can see I'm just so like almost blown up.
Mm-hmm.
Like even my face just feels really blown up, and
Yeah.
and you can just tell like this is not just a fat person, this is an unhealthy fat person.
Right, right.
And that's the beauty of it. I just feel so much like aging gracefully with hCG.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice to have it, you know, like you said, because you never know when you'll hit a rough spot in life, you know, and when we might need it at some point, you know. Even it's like even for me, it's been almost 2 years, but I don't want to get cocky and think like, oh, I'll never need it again, because like, you know, I run into hormone issues here and there, and like you said, you had an illness, and it's you can't always control, you know, everything, so it's good to have it.
Well, I personally see it more than a weight loss. I see it as a metabolism tune-up.
I agree.
Therefore, now that I can get it with my name on it from a pharmacy in America, which
Right.
thank you.
Yay, I know.
Because of that, I do intend to do it once a year.
Yeah.
The 21-day
Yeah.
injection days once a year.
That's great.
Because I am approaching 50, and I just see it as a way to keep my hormones in check. That's the easiest way to sum it up.
Actually, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's almost kind of like a people, you know, talk about cleanses all the time. It's almost like doing a cleanse once a year, which is most people would consider healthy, but it's really even better because, like you said, it's helping to kind of maybe reset your hormones for the next year. It's actually something I've considered myself. I kind of feel like because I have my blog, I'm a little more I feel a little bit more responsible to like to the people who come to my blog to prove that like I haven't needed it for a few years, you know. So it's like, you know, which I've managed to do, but I have been considering that fact that it it could, because I, you know, I have health issues too, and it's like it could help me with certain aspects of my health doing it on a, you know, on a basis like that, you know. So it's something I think about. Yeah.
Yeah, hCG, I think it needs to be seen as a healthy
Yeah.
protocol as much as the weight loss. I think
Right.
it does more for my health.
Yeah.
And the weight loss is just a side effect of good health.
Right.
So I think in a way that hCG makes my metabolism work properly so that I can have a healthy
Right.
body as opposed to actually the hCG making me lose weight. It's almost like it's a side effect.
Right. Yeah.
Health.
And it's true, actually, it's even being used in smaller dosages for people with chronic illness for pain management, like fibromyalgia. That's actually one of the uses that people have been exploring more lately. I had another interview. She's going to be episode 19. She actually had her fibromyalgia symptoms go away completely for like 2 years after doing a round of hCG. Just
Well,
randomly.
I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia
Okay.
8 years ago.
Mm.
And due to my insurance plan, I was able to go through a pain management program.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I almost couldn't walk. My
Wow.
knees and my ankles hurt so bad. I was really kind of scared. I was thinking, am I going to be in a wheelchair by the time I'm older?
Yeah.
And like I said, now I'm zero medication. I don't even take, matter of fact, I think I took 8 Tylenols in 12 months last year.
Cool.
And no ibuprofen,
Yeah.
zero ibuprofen. I mean, when I say I'm prescription free, that also
Yeah.
means any over the counter
Right.
pain medications
Yeah.
besides electrolytes like potassium and
Yeah.
magnesium.
And that's really a big deal too because like I think sometimes we forget like that our liver, right? You know more about this than me, has to process that type of stuff. Like it's even if it's helping a symptom, it's still kind of a toxin to your liver, right? Like your liver has to process it in its work. Is
Oh,
that right?
absolutely, absolutely. I can't stress how careful you have to be with Tylenol.
Good. Yeah. So it's good. It's like if you can get away from all of that, that's awesome.
Well, and the more you can focus on nutrition as opposed to prescription, that's always going to be the healthy route because our
Right.
bodies doesn't. I mean, it wasn't programmed for prescriptions. It was
Right.
programmed for nature.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Why don't we move on now to like the whole just the maintenance aspect, like with phase 3 and maintaining weight. And I know you don't use a scale, but you have your gauges. So tell me what things you find don't work well for maintaining and what things do work well.
Okay. Well, for me personally, I've had to give up soy, and I've had to give up dairy. And just to let you know, when I was born, I couldn't even have dairy. My mom tried breastfeeding and was unsuccessful, and I actually I grew up on goat's milk.
Oh, there you go.
So, but as an adult, every time I ate dairy, even though and it had nothing to do with the fat, I guess it was the protein.
Okay,
I gained a lot of weight,
gotcha.
and due to the pancreas issue of being a controlled diabetic, I couldn't have avocados either. Avocados are low on the glycemic, well, they're moderate on the
Okay,
glycemic index, but once our enzymes attach to it and break the fat away from the meat because it's still a fruit,
okay.
uh, it actually has a really high insulin response. And I didn't
Interesting.
know this at first, and I was eating avocados like a fourth to half avocado once a day,
Yeah.
and within 2 weeks I gained 15 pounds.
Whoa. Yeah, I didn't
And
know that about avocados either, actually.
yeah, and it's because it's a fruit, and
Interesting.
being a highly sensitive to carbohydrates, I just can't have it.
Yeah.
So those all make me gain weight. I'm still struggling with coconut oil. Everybody says, that it's that high ketosis top oil, and of course there's no medical. I don't
Right.
being in milk world, we don't give out coconut oil, so I don't have any
Right.
background on it.
Yeah.
But I do struggle with it. I think it tastes wonderful, and I use it as a spray, not on P2, but
Yeah.
I use the spray for like my skillet and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still just slowly trying to introduce it back into my diet without the dairy and the soy, because maybe that was conflicting with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a good thing to mention though because, even though there's like it's like every year there's like a new food that's like the new special superfood that everyone should eat that's good. And for some people it might be good. I actually am sensitive to coconut products too. I discovered like coconut milk, coconut oil. I don't do well with them. I actually think I have a sensitivity to them, and I think it causes weight gain for me. So it's something I do avoid. But even though I know for other people it's great. But and I love that you mentioned the avocado. For any of you guys out there having trouble with phase 3, typically, avocado is considered like a fat that's like low carb that you can eat healthfully. But it sounds like actually it could be a trouble food. So it's like if you're having trouble in P3 and you're having avocado, maybe try taking it out for a few days and see, what happens. I just think that's very fascinating. Yeah, it's interesting.
And that's what I had to do. I would eat really good, and know where I was, and then I would introduce a food. And like I said, I don't have a scale, but you feel 15 pounds in your clothes,
Right, yeah.
especially in my bra. And that's one thing I recommend. If you don't use a scale, do measure yourself. Get some way to make yourself accountable. Like I said, the full length mirror, it's not going to lie.
Right.
And if you get your bra, I recommend every woman should go get fitted for a bra,
Yeah.
and get it the right size, and you will know if you've gained weight because it's very uncomfortable. It just won't let you
Like,
be delusional.
yeah, that's a good point. That's good. So those are the things that you found that you need to be careful with or
Yes.
avoid. How about what has worked well for you in maintaining?
Okay, well, I'm going to say up front that I am clinically complicated due to the pancreas. So
Sure.
a lot of people are going to be able to get away with a lot more than I can.
Sure.
On the scale, let's face it, I'm the extreme because of my pancreas.
Right.
And so um, I am almost at the end of P3, which of course we all know is the stabilizing, the most serious, and most scariest part of the entire phase.
Yeah.
And you have great videos on
Okay,
that.
thanks.
And so all I've done is increase the amount I eat. I only eat twice a day. That's personal choice. I go 16 hours so that I allow any glycogen in my liver to be used up. And that's part of me and my doctor's insulin resistant program is I go 16 hours with zero food.
Gotcha.
And then I just increased, like I think I'm averaging around 900 to 1,000 calories right now. And because I'm still in P3, and that's been a success for me. And I wasn't trying to lose weight on P3. Of course, I want to stabilize. I've already done all the hard work to lose weight on P2, but it does seem like I'm still losing inches, even though I bet I'm not losing weight. So I guess it's just that stabilizing and everything moving around. But I think my waist has gotten about an inch smaller.
Cool. Well, you never know. I mean, at 900 to 1,000, you might be losing a couple pounds, you know? I mean, if you're losing in your waist, that definitely means you're losing fat. So, right?
So, but I just want to stress, anybody getting scared hearing how little I eat, just remember my case is special. I don't have the option of playing around with my food. I only have 40% of my pancreas.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you have to be more careful.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And so if you can eat more power to you.
Yes.
Enjoy it from us.
Yes, I can. I do have my pancreas and I eat a lot more than that. So
I'm like, enjoy it for both of us. That's just the journey that I personally had to do. It's if I could change it, I would.
Sure. But it sounds like you've accepted what it is and that you have a bigger goal or a bigger thing that is more important to you, which is having a healthy body, and so you've learned to accept those things as part of it.
And everything is about that movement. I feel like everybody, if you don't know what I mean, just climb a flight of stairs. If you don't feel like you could almost dance up those stairs, then I recommend hCG, because that's what hCG did for me. Is it made me feel like I could just hop up those stairs like I was 10 years old.
That's awesome. So the last thing I wanted to ask you was, what do you think about the mental, and you kind of just touched on it a little bit, but that whole mental and emotional aspect to doing this protocol successfully? Like, what do you think about that? How necessary is that to do this?
Well, I'm not going to tell tales, but I have two friends that knew I was taking the hCG, and they were doing programs like Weight Watchers and other programs. And of course, we're going to compare what we eat. And the thing is that you get so many points on those programs, and they were challenging themselves to actually see how many points they could get away with, where I was in the mindset of how few calories can I get away with. And that's going to be the difference. If you're thinking prior to hCG that, well, this is going to get me my weight loss for right now, and then like maybe Christmas I can go back to eating normal, that's not going to work for you. If you have to have the mindset ahead of time that you will do whatever it takes, because the hCG is still going to have a limitation. If you may lose all this weight and feel empowered, and then 6 months later you're going back to your previous diet that obviously didn't work, that's why you're overweight, it's still going to make you gain weight. And so if you're thinking about how long do I have to do this, how many calories can I get away with, as opposed to challenging yourself on how many calories fewer can I eat, those are going to be the different mindsets. If you're feeling angry, cheated, jealous, then you're not ready, and that's okay. Give yourself time to deal with those feelings, because like I said, the hCG is a hormone, and it probably will make you a little more hormonal than normal, and so it's bringing up all of those issues that were there in the back of your mind, and now it's time to deal with them.
Yeah, because you have to. I mean, you're faced with them,
Yeah. So the main questions are, like I said, if you're asking yourself how many calories can I get away with, and the cheat, I really want to talk about cheating on hCG.
Yeah, let's do that.
hCG is black and white on how it is. I mean, you are injecting your body with a chemical. This isn't deciding to eat really good today on another program, even Atkins, and then tomorrow deciding what you want to do. You're starting with the same body when you do that. On hCG, you're not.
Yeah.
You are introducing an element into your body. You cannot cheat. I can't stress that enough. You may cheat on a previous diet and maybe you just stopped. On an hCG, you cheat, you're going to gain because your body is geared toward one direction.
Right.
And if you introduce something that's high calorie, it's just going to gobble it up.
Right.
Because you're shifting that internal dark brown fat that I was talking about, that's that yellow fat on the chicken. You're shifting that, and frankly, the body doesn't want to give it up. It took a lot of energy to store that pantry, and it's not going to let it go. So, yeah, you can't, and ask yourself that. If you have cheated previously on diets, maybe it's time to go through a program to deal with the emotional part on why you did that to yourself before you start the hCG, because it is very serious.
It is, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned all that. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I can't remember what I was gonna say, but anyway, that's good.
And I know this because I got okay. So the first round I did really good, and it got my ego going and everything. And I was like, I can do this. And I waited the I think it's 6 weeks. I waited the time. This has been too long for me to remember, but
Yeah.
I waited the time that Dr. Simeon said to wait before you do the second protocol. Yeah. Well, my ego kicked in on the second protocol.
Yeah.
And I basically was not prepared for it. I didn't give myself enough time to accept my new body, like I said, like looking more attractive.
Right.
And getting compliments from my coworkers. I was surprised at how hard I had receiving. Let me rephrase that. I received a lot of compliments. My mind did not want to receive those compliments.
Gotcha.
And my second round, I was not emotionally ready, and I did cheat, and it did fail. And I just basically had to stop, and it took almost 4 months before my metabolism stabilized from that introduction really short and introduction really long. And that's why Dr. Simeon says go 21 days. It is an entire process that you're affecting the hormones. That's a chemical signature in your body. And so if you mess up, just know that it may be 4 to 6 months before hCG will work for you again.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, it's good you mentioned that, and that is a good reminder for everybody. You had a failed round two. I had a failed round two. Round two is the round to be cautious of. Like you said, you get a little cocky because you're like, oh, last round went so great. Maybe there's some things that don't matter as much as I thought they did. Somehow.
That's exactly the mindset I had. Maybe
yes.
just a little.
And like you said too, you've kind of the adjustment that you're making with your body, and I did what you said as well. I was not emotionally ready that second round. I was kind of having some health issues, and I think this is useful for people to know in case they're in that place. I did do that. I found myself trying to see how much I could get away with. I found myself getting angry. I'm almost getting mad at the diet, like it's not fair, even though I'm like, I'm the one who chose to do this. But I'm like, that's not fair, like that I have to do this. And so yeah, I was not ready at that point for doing that. And it was it would have been better for me to stop the round when I realized that things were just unraveling. Instead, I kind of kept trying for like 6 weeks, but it was a mess. And I really think, oh, it would have been so much better if after 1 or 2 weeks I had realized, like, okay, this is not the right time to be doing this. Let me stop, and I think it would have done less damage. So it's good for.
And I think that's what also gives hCG a bad reputation is everybody's coming from these programs. Like I said, when you're doing anything other than hCG, you're waking up and going to bed with the same body chemistry.
Right.
The only thing you changed was nutrition. But with hCG, you introduced a chemical into your body. And I think they bring that mindset, and you do get angry and you do get jealous. I have one tip though. I have discovered the best month to do a 21-day round.
Oh, and when is that?
The last week of August, all the way through September. Okay. School is starting. Yes. Everybody is body conscious.
Yes.
And it's the end of all the summer activities, and you have time to do 21 days plus your 3 weeks of P3 before the holidays hit.
That's true. that's true. Good timing.
But like I said, I am planning on doing mine once a year, and that's
Cool.
when I do it, and that's why I'm just finishing up because.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of that. I feel like we talked about so many good things today. Yeah, is there any last things that we didn't cover that you can think of before we wrap it
I
up?
I feel really confident that
Yeah,
I've had all these tips in my head for 6 years. It feels good to finally get them
yeah,
out.
they're great. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of good stuff today. Yeah, that's awesome. And I hope that things continue to go well for you. I
Oh,
mean,
thank
you look
you.
great. It's a huge change, 26 to size 12. You have such a adorable shape. So be proud of
Well,
it. Like I know you already are, but like let's all band together and be proud of all our various shapes. you know?
and I know right now there's so much pressure on young women, especially around age 24. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm a role model, but I'm almost 50,
Yeah,
and I just wanted to know that you can still look youthful. Like,
yeah.
don't give up.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And a lot of women that are doing hCG actually are like 45 and up, 45 to 65 actually are probably a lot of the women that I'm communicating with. And yeah, they look great. What hCG is doing for them is just amazing. Because I'll get emails like, oh, can it work for me? I'm 60. Yes, like that's actually the majority because usually by that point women have the maturity to do the protocol because like you were saying it's really not easy. You have to be ready to face emotional issues or have dealt with them already. And usually it takes a certain amount of maturity to do that. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, thank
I
you so much for being with me.
give everybody a big hug that feels the worthiness to give this to themselves because it is
Yeah,
a gift of
it is.
health.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you.